All right. So this podcast is on natural selection. Imagine a population of beetles. So it gives you here a definition of what a population is. A population is the number of organisms of the same species in a certain area. So we have, for example, a human population or a beetle population, like in this situation. So a population must have the same, it must be the same species, and it's just a number in a certain area. So imagine a population of beetles, and we have green ones and brown ones. And there's a lot of food and a lot of space. Okay. What do you think would happen to the beetle population if there were to be an unlimited amount of space and food available? Go ahead and write what you think under your notes where the question is there. What do you think would happen to this beetle population if there were unlimited amount of space and food? So go ahead and pause it and then check your answers after. So you should have written something along the lines of population growth. The population is going to grow. We're going to have more beetles. You possibly may have mentioned competition. So eventually there will be competition for resources. So why? And go ahead and fill in the blank. So eventually competition for resources will take place, and why? So why is it going to take place? So go ahead and write your thoughts. Write your thoughts under the second statement where it says why. Some of you may have mentioned that competition occurs because we need to survive and reproduce. And in order to survive, we need food, we need shelter, we even need mates to pass on those high quality traits. So that is why competition happens. So Charles Darwin explained that this competition for resources was due to the struggle for existence. So organisms living in a population do struggle, and they struggle to survive because of our need, or in this case, the beetles' need for food, shelter, and a mate. So, what might be, I have a question, another question. What might be some key factors that help an organism, like the brown beetles, to survive? So again, there's a struggle for existence. Our environments are changing. There are not just beetles in an environment, there are other organisms too. What might be some factors that might help an organism like the brown beetles to survive? So this question right here, go ahead and answer it. Okay, now that you answered it, some of you may have mentioned camouflage, the ability to maybe go underground. Those, or yeah, mostly blending with the surrounding environment or even with other organisms might be some factors that might help an organism. So using their characteristics within their environment might be helpful. So Darwin called this fitness. So the next blank that you see there is going to be fitness. Darwin called this fitness the ability of an organism to survive and reproduce. Okay, the brown beetles were not eaten. You could see here that they're not eaten by the bird, right? So the brown beetles, we say they have a high fitness, okay? While the green ones had a low fitness because the green ones did not survive. They were easily eaten. They were easily spotted by the birds. And statement 5, high fitness. Okay, high fitness was a result of an adaptation, right? Which is an inherited characteristic that increases an organism's chance of survival. Okay, So which beetles were more adapted to their environment? And you could see here that the brown beetles were more adapted to their environment. They were able to use their color to survive, right? So in our giraffe lab activity that we did on natural selection, what adaptation led to high fitness? So what in that lab helped the giraffe survive and then reproduce? Go ahead and write it down. Okay, you should have mentioned the height, the neck, not the height, the neck size, right? The longer the neck, the more it will be able to reach for food, right? In the case of a drought, you need to be able to reach high places. And so that was the adaptation. And Darwin called this survival of the fittest. Survival of the fittest. So that would be the next blank. Survival of the fittest. Darwin observed that for many years farmers practiced artificial selection. There's another scenario here. Darwin observed that for many years farmers practiced artificial selection, meaning that farmers would choose which organism to mate with another organism. So if a chicken had a bigger breast, then that one would be used to give birth, right? Because then, in theory, over time, we should be able to see more chickens with larger breasts if we kept selecting them artificially. Okay, so farmers selected their best crops and plants, planted those seeds to increase production. Farmers also mated their best cows to produce healthier cows that produced more milk. Therefore, Darwin called what he observed in nature natural selection, because similar to artificial selection, natural selection allowed those with better traits to survive and therefore pass on those high quality traits to the next generation. So you started to see that adaptation or that trait more and more and more over time. Natural selection, the last blank, is natural selection acts on the phenotype of an organism, like the size of one's breast, the size of one's neck size in a giraffe, right? The color of the shell of the turtle, or the color of the insect. Those are some examples that you could put on there. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is answer the questions that are in that are on your Cornell notes, and go ahead and fill in the blanks for the summary as well. So the summary looks something like this. Go ahead and fill it in. I'm gonna show you a video clip, and there are 3 questions at the end that I want you to answer. Okay, and these 3 questions are right here. I'm going to show you the video clip right now. It's only 3 minutes. Then I want you to answer it and the questions, and then we're going to go over the answers so we get a better understanding of natural selection. So here we go.
What if I told you there were trillions of tiny bacteria all around you? It's true. Microorganisms called bacteria were some of the first life forms to appear on Earth. Though they consist of only a single cell, their total biomass is greater than that of all plants and animals combined. And they live virtually everywhere. On the ground, in the water, on your kitchen table, on your skin, even inside you. Don't reach for the panic button just yet. Although you have 10 times more bacterial cells inside you than your body has human cells, many of these bacteria are harmless or even beneficial, helping digestion and immunity. But there are a few bad apples that can cause harmful infections, from minor inconveniences to deadly epidemics. Fortunately, there are amazing medicines designed to fight bacterial infections. Synthesized from chemicals or occurring naturally in things like mold, these antibiotics kill or neutralize bacteria by interrupting cell wall synthesis or interfering with vital processes like protein synthesis, all while leaving human cells unharmed. The deployment of antibiotics over the course of the 20th century has rendered many previously dangerous diseases easily treatable. But today, more and more of our antibiotics are becoming less effective. Did something go wrong to make them stop working? The problem is not with the antibiotics, but the bacteria they were made to fight, and the reason lies in Darwin's theory of natural selection. Just like any other organisms, individual bacteria can undergo random mutations. Many of these mutations are harmful or useless, but every now and then one comes along that gives its organism an edge in survival. And for a bacterium, a mutation making it resistant to a certain antibiotic gives quite the edge. As the non-resistant bacteria are killed off, which happens especially quickly in antibiotic-rich environments like hospitals, there is more room and resources for the resistant ones to thrive, passing along only the mutated genes that help them do so. Reproduction isn't the only way to do this. Some can release their DNA upon death to be picked up by other bacteria, while others use a method called conjugation, connecting through pili to share their genes. Over time, the resistant genes proliferate, creating entire strains of resistant superbacteria. So how much time do we have before these superbugs take over? Well, in some bacteria, it's already happened. For instance, some strands of Staphylococcus aureus, which causes everything from skin infections to pneumonia and sepsis, have developed into MRSA, becoming resistant to beta-lactam antibiotics like penicillin, methicillin, and oxacillin. Thanks to a gene that replaces the protein beta-lactams normally target and bind to, MRSA can keep making its cell walls unimpeded. Other superbacteria, like Salmonella, even sometimes produce enzymes like beta-lactamase that break down antibiotic attackers before they can do any damage. And E. coli, a diverse group of bacteria that contains strains that cause diarrhea and kidney failure, can prevent the function of antibiotics like quinolones by actively booting any invaders that manage to enter the cell. But there is good news. Scientists are working to stay one step ahead of the bacteria, and although development of new antibiotics has slowed in recent years, the World Health Organization has made it a priority to develop novel treatments. Other scientists are investigating alternate solutions, such as phage therapy or using vaccines to prevent infections. Most importantly, curbing the excessive and unnecessary use of antibiotics, such as for minor infections that can resolve on their own, as well as changing medical practice to prevent hospital infections, can have a major impact by keeping more non-resistant bacteria alive as competition for resistant strains. In the war against superbacteria, de-escalation may sometimes work better than an evolutionary arms race.
Okay, so go ahead and answer these questions and check your answers in a few seconds. Okay, now that you tried, here are your answers. Just check your answers real quick. And I have one more quick right here for you. I want you guys to try this example. So this will tell me whether you really understand this idea of natural selection. So go ahead and read it. It says, using what you learned, how would you explain what is happening to the insect population? So here it is. You're going to analyze this. What is being represented by the white and red insects? What would you expect to see in future generations if the same pesticide is being applied? And what could be done differently? So just so you guys know, a pesticide is a chemical used to kill and control pests. So what does this have anything to do with natural selection? Think about the video, think about antibiotic resistance, okay? And yeah, we'll talk about it in a bit.